Tom here for Lawrence Systems, and I am joined by Jeanette Fackler, and we're going to talk about something that comes up all the time. Every time I do a video about a project, the other question besides the project is, Tom, how'd you get that project? Or how did you get that client, and et cetera? And it's not an easy answer because marketing is challenging and difficult and not my field of expertise. I fumble my way through it. But I was on LinkedIn and I found Jeanette, and I know plenty of people in marketing. Well, I shouldn't say no. I've seen lots of people in marketing, but they don't catch my eye. And she caught my eye because she sent me a video as a LinkedIn intro. So that was the first thing. Second was a more quirky way of marketing, which is, of course, something more appealing to me. It was deborifying it, I think is how you said it. I like that. I'm like, yes, it's not the standard check the box, traditional post these things. And so we had a conversation. I said, let me bring on a YouTube channel just so I can introduce people to some marketing ideas. And full disclosure, as I do with my ethics, I'm not engaged for services. I don't, there's no money being exchanged here is the shortest answer I can say it here. It just started as a LinkedIn meeting. We talked and we said, let's just put a video out there and bring up the questions, and Jeanette will start fielding them. And we'll actually throw out the first question here is, how do you do marketing on a budget? And what do you actually, before you get there, what do you exactly do? I didn't say the name of your company. So tell us who you are and what you do.
Okay. Yeah, my name's Jeanette Fackler. I own J&L Marketing. We are a small marketing firm at the moment, but we do custom content, and we focus on custom content and marketing operations, which means helping people do the day-to-day stuff that they don't have time for, like mailing letters and sending emails and CRM work, that kind of stuff that's nobody is interested in doing. So that's our main focus. And like you said, deborifying,
Yeah.
that's why I say
Well,
custom content.
of note, you specialize in the tech space, which is also
Yes.
not just marketing in the broader sense of any type of company, but you have a proficiency in the technology space, which is of course what made me interested, because
Yeah.
I happen to have a lot of technology people to follow me for the other things I do, but the marketing side's really important. I mean, if it wasn't for the marketing that I do, and most of mine's been focused on YouTube the last little while, which makes me more disconnected from traditional marketing outlets, which of course is why I have a subject matter expert here on that.
Mhm.
But yeah, the tech marketing is challenging and a lot of work. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for bringing up my specialty because of course I forgot to do it.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it's just a generic marketing. It's
Correct.
specifically, and why it's relevant to this channel and why it's relevant to, I think, to my audience, is we're going to talk about marketing tech, marketing the managed service provider space, and that
Yeah.
specific realm.
Yeah, I was my previous job was sales engineer. I was in telecom for 17 years and I was sales engineer for 11. So that's how I got into this. It's a long story, exactly how I got here, but that's where my previous experience kind of comes into play and helps with the content because I know how to talk to customers, but also understand technology. Right. So that's how I got into this.
Yeah, you sold a technical solution and with a recurring billing on it, phone systems. So
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
the concept is really,
Yeah,
really there. So
yeah.
perfect. And I think the first question we had on here, and I'm looking to decide which I have the notes pulled up, is how do you market on a budget? That's a question I hear all the time. And go ahead and answer that question.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was the same way. I started with zero marketing budget. So you have to consider your time as your marketing budget and what is your hourly rate. So that will help you define what is the has the biggest bang for your buck. And we'll get into that later. But marketing on a budget, I'd say website is one of the biggest. And I think most people are doing this, but
Yeah.
there are plenty of free platforms, that will give you free web hosting, but also have the tool to help you build the website. And, they may not be the biggest and best website, but people expect to see a website. So,
And the basics need to be on there, really.
yeah.
I've seen people over engineer and overthink it. If you start out with something basic, I think that's pretty good, where it just says who you are, what you do, what services you offer, even if that's a brief statement, because it's fine to be brief. It's better than having nothing. And then a contact us page. What areas do you cover? Because if someone does discover you or looks you up on a website, are they in an area you cover? It's kind of, to me, it's like once you get some of those basics, and publish it and don't have that analysis paralysis that some people get of,
Yeah.
I don't have like the, 6 pages of copy and all the text and details. I'm like, no one's reading that far. If you could watch someone's eyes go down there, they stopped at a couple headlines of what the services you offer. Maybe they read those paragraphs, but
Yeah.
it's not, yeah, at least have something out there so you look like you exist.
Yeah, yeah, like it really just establishes legitimacy. You're a real company, and yeah, it doesn't have to be. People often think that the wording needs to be all fancy and pretty, and it really doesn't. People want to just know what you do. So if you have random taglines at the top of your website, people don't, and people can't tell what you do from that very top part of your website. They just leave.
Yeah.
So if you have some kind of like inspirational motto or whatever, that's cool, but it doesn't help people, and it won't help your website
Yeah.
thrive.
And I'll ask that people stop copying my website. Apparently they like it. If you take my tagline and put it in parentheses in Google, you'll find a lot of people that just
Mm,
copied. Don't just
yeah.
duplicate someone else's website. At least change it up a little bit so they don't think you cheated on your homework here. So at
Right,
least come
right.
up with
Right,
something.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so website is, I'd say, the number one place to start. You could do that for free. Google My Business is the next thing that a lot of people really overlook it. Often your Google My Business kind of just pops up, especially once you
Yeah.
have a website. Google will go, oh, yeah, here's a business. We're going to create this listing for you. Do not leave it that way. Go in, create your account, fill it out, make sure all the information is correct, and then add information to it. Like list what services you have. And if you can get customers to go out there and give reviews, you are like miles ahead of the other 40 MSPs that are in your area.
Yeah, unclaimed Google My Business is like a pet peeve of mine. It's like it's such low hanging fruit. It costs you nothing more than having a Gmail address. I think you can do it without one too, but you could tie right to your Gmail address, have something set up just to put it all to bed, and then once you have it, post a couple pictures, get your hours accurate, and it shows up. And Google uses that as a basis for a lot of the search results when you're looking for something, and just to go, what are the hours of such and such company? That
Yeah.
information, drop it in Google. It doesn't cost you anything, and yeah, definitely one of the please do that. I almost would say do it before the website sometimes, but
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because it doesn't take as long, right?
doesn't, yeah, it's way easier. You don't have to put much on there. You can just say we fix computers. You can stop there if you just want to be that brief on Google, but at least get that filled out, because you're right. A lot of people I see that unclaimed, and it makes people that much harder to find. Or you actually are risk at something I've seen happen to a client. Someone else claimed it for them. Their competitor messed with it.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Well, that's
So
not good.
yeah,
Uh,
that someone asked me if I knew how to fix it. The
yeah.
assumption is I do computers, so I know how to fix these things. I'm like, "No, you're going to make this challenging for you when they claimed it. So get it
Exactly.
claimed, get that little placeholder
Yeah.
taken care of.
Yeah, because when people do Google something like IT support or computer repair or something like that, Google, I'll just that's the first thing that comes up. They'll have websites too, but the Google My Business listings are right there. So it's really important to do that. And I also would say you don't need to worry too much about Yelp and Yahoo and the others, because
Mm-mm.
especially Yelp, people like to go on there and leave poor reviews, and then
Occasionally people
so
go on complain.
yeah.
For anyone who wants some trivia, look up my company on Yelp. You'll see my badge has finally been approved that says people hate us on Yelp. I purposely changed. I have a true dislike of that company as a whole. So there's I thought about doing a rant about it, but I'm not really someone who posts too many rant videos on here. But
Yeah.
you get the idea of what I think of Yelp by looking at my Yelp badge.
Right, right. It's just really developed this culture of, let me
Complaining people.
vent my frustrations with life in general. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. As a
No.
matter of fact, if you stay away from there, then you don't have to reply to the negative comments, because it's clear you're not active.
And I would also add on some of the social media stuff, once again, even if you don't actively use it, getting placeholders because of what your company name is, if you can find your handle on Twitter and claim it, or any of the social media platforms, even if they're not something you're actively going to use, it doesn't cost anything to hurry up and just register all those. Because I've run into, I don't have YouTube/Lawrence Systems because someone else has it.
Yeah.
I didn't have the foresight to think about that a long time ago. That's why it actually has a slightly different slash name than was available. Someone else took it. They're not doing anything with it, but they're sitting on it. So that means
Right.
I can't. So
Right.
getting
Yep.
all your socials, even like I said, even if it's TikTok and you're going, why would an MSP use TikTok? I don't know that you would, but go ahead and claim whatever handle is kind of my opinion. Just
Right.
placeholder all those things.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I had the same experience with our Facebook page. There's already JML marketings, but we're better than them. Just putting it out there. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But but yeah, we had to go with a slightly different as well. And again, it's just kind of like the website. It's at least showing people that you have a presence and you're out there and you're an active business.
And it's way better than letting someone else claim it. If you ever have someone who decides to go beyond Yelp to complain about you, they will look for things you haven't claimed and then put stuff about you there. So
Yeah.
those
Make
are
a little
things that happen.
company page for you. Those are
Yeah,
always
yeah.
fun.
All
Yeah.
right, on to the next one is what are some of the marketing channels available? So obviously, hopefully you've registered all these things, you've got the website, but now marketing channels. What are some of the ones that are popular today? Because I'm using YouTube, so I'm not the best person to ask.
Yeah. Well, YouTube is one of the it's actually a great it's great channel, as you know, and you have me this really close to convinced to starting my own. So it's all about time though. But yes, there are several things that you can do social media, and I love social media. That's where I get most of my inbound leads from. It requires time, but you can do that in your spare time. A lot of people are scrolling through anyway, so social media is much bigger than people think. um, Outbound calling is one that a lot of people are not comfortable with, but
But
they're
smiling and dialing is effective.
yeah.
There's no doubt.
Yeah, there's a debate. There's debate in marketing about how effective that is. Inbound marketers like to say, have them come to you. That's true, but there's whole companies that's all they do is make outbound calls, and their promise to their customers is, we're going to deliver you clients. So they wouldn't be in business. They would not exist if there wasn't some validity to it, right?
Yeah, and you also have to be prepared. If you're going to call 100 people, you're lucky to get one. The percentages very frequently are lower than people expect, and you
Yeah.
know that from working in the telco. The percentages aren't that good. Therefore, a lot of people assume it's not a best outlet. But that one person who calls, if that lands you a 50, 60, $100,000 deal, and that's
Yeah.
an important aspect to it.
Right. It's really funny that because I wrote down the little equation there based on 100 calls. If you make 100 calls, it takes you 5 minutes per call, average, right? You've got about 8.5 hours
Yeah.
in. If you get one client, there's a $500 project that's $62 an hour for you, right? So, and hopefully they would be a recurring, that would be recurring revenue.
Yes.
So it can pay off, but you do have to keep, be persistent and just be prepared. Don't let your feelings be hurt if people are not interested. It's just part of the game. But you can do that yourself for
Yeah.
free.
So the CEO of a company I used to work for, he said he never had problems with being that dogged persistent because when he was a kid, he went door to door vacuum sales. He got roped into that back when that was
Oh,
a thing. He's an older guy,
yeah, that was a
so
thing.
and he says once you've had doors slammed on your face, people scream at you, and you just keep going to the next door
Yeah,
right after that. He goes, nothing bothers you. He
yeah,
goes,
yeah,
whatever. I call, and he built a rather successful business, and he says, just don't be afraid. Don't take it personal. You do
yeah,
not want to, if they don't want to buy it, just move on to the next person because maybe they will. So,
yep. Yeah, email is also another one that is super high ROI. The numbers always change, but it's something like $40 return on every $1 spent. So you can do that again for free if you just send it yourself. You can also use an email platforms. They're pretty reasonable, like Mailchimp and things like that.
yeah,
So
probably MailChimp and Constant Contact are the two big ones that come
big.
out there, and probably HubSpot as well is kind of an integration to help, see if people open links. I'll say if you could take the time to cold email as well, but do so with like a little bit of thought process in it where you actually take the time to learn the business and understand something about them and talk about how you can solve a problem. If you can be a little bit more personal, that little extra level, which of course makes the time exponentially more, but your likelihood of them actually caring about that becomes exponentially more.
Yeah, it requires having a list. of people to email,
Yes.
especially if you can get a list of people that are not hostile to you, like they're okay with you emailing them. And you also have to segment. That's a huge aspect of emailing. If you're trying to email salons and huge accounting firms, they have totally different interests and aims.
Yeah.
And it's silly to try to write something that's going to appeal to all of them. It's just not going to work.
One of the things that I've always liked, because people ask why my business isn't niche. Like, we're an MSP, but we have law firms and we have accounting offices and we have salons. And the marketing we have always done, any type of things or we're doing, we're going to niche into marketing for dental because we have a handful of dental clients. Not the same emails going to salon. There are two different use cases. It's niching your marketing is where you can gain clients, because broad marketing just doesn't appeal to any one of those individuals. But when you look broadly, everyone runs Windows is kind of my joke. So the computer side is easy from the MSP side of being broad on that. But the marketing, you really do have to figure out who your client is and make something catered to their industry, because you're going to solve their problems in the way that it needs to be solved in their market. That's a better
Exactly.
ask when you're sending some to them. We can work with Salon, I think it's called Salon Centric. I can't remember. There's a bunch of salon software. We're familiar with it. And I go, oh, these guys know what that is. Cool. They know how to get the printer working on that
Exactly.
software. I'm like, we sure do.
Exactly.
And so,
Yep.
yeah, so it's a little bit of different marketing. What's
Yeah.
probably the best one to start with, though? Like, where would you go if you're a new MSP? Because that's what a lot of people want to break out on their own. I don't know that 2020 is the best time to start a business, but if you've already made that decision, and I can't talk you out of it, you want to start in under duress situations of 2020, what would be the first thing you do? Because a lot of times I tell people just go to the Chamber of Commerce and go to the meetings. Having less in-person meetings right now, which is maybe dates this video a little bit, but it's a relevant topic right now. And that's a question I get asked a lot, because in my past videos, I said, well, I joined the chamber, I go interact and with crowds of people that I haven't done in a while, which feels kind of weird now.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So that's usually is the place you'll start, because you typically are going to get your most business from word of mouth to begin with. So obviously, a website, Google My Business, totally first place to start. Um, Social media, I like to say is your next one, because everybody's on social media right now. They really,
Mhm.
really are. So just get started and don't overthink your content, like just go out there, comment on other people's stuff, start saying things, people are not going to
Have
be judging you and trolling you. It's really unlikely.
Yes, and I'm one of the things I laugh because it came up in my Facebook memories, and I thought I may do a video around this one photo, because I think that photo's made me over $150,000. I got to do the math on exactly how much this photo made me.
Really.
Why did it make so much money? Well, this is really simple. One of my ways I engage on Facebook is, I'm not talking about my Facebook business page. I'm talking about Tom Lawrence personal Facebook page. One, you don't see me ranting about whatever the hot topic
Uh,
is,
yeah.
politics or whatever.
Politics. And,
Just
yeah.
avoid it, because you're dividing your client base for people's opinions. And matter of fact, there's plenty of people who are absolutely middle of the road that have no interest in engaging in any political conversation.
Right.
So what do I post instead? Well, memes. We were laughing about that before, because I'll run through. I post some, dad jokes are my favorite. They are referred to as dad jokes, but don't worry, if you're a female, you can still post them as well. They're still equally
I
funny.
know. We're gonna have a go round with the puns and dad jokes. I didn't know.
Yeah. So some of that stuff is it's ways to have an engagement and look at that. But the photo that made me the money specifically was, I had posted we were doing a wiring job, and I was balancing the ladder in a funny way, and I snapped a picture of a selfie looking down while holding the ladder up. I don't know, it seemed kind of funny because there was something balanced on the top of it, and but that someone says, hey, you do the wiring thing. That was the comment on there. And I said, yes, we do the wiring. And I put thing in there. And the back and forth banter, she goes, well, we need some wiring things done. And it turned this kind of back and forth joke. I said, okay, great. That happened to be a car dealerships that needed it. And it's her brother that owned the dealership, a big one. He owned 4 of them, a matter of fact. And they spent about 150 to 200,000 over the next year just in cabling and projects that they had, because we did the wiring thing. And it
Right.
started with, she seen me on a ladder. She seen me making a joke about it. And she also says, I laugh at your memes. She says, I follow you because you post a lot of silly things. That was actually what she said, but I never met her in person. We had some mutual friends, but that type of engagement on Facebook where you're literally building like a persona, you're building like, hey, this person, nothing extreme. I don't spend any time making fun of people. I post some puns and some silliness. And I think that type of engagement, and that's part of the reason, like how you deborify it. And that's a little bit of what I'm leaning into here, is by being yourself a little bit, or
Yeah.
a version of yourself that's funny. Because if you yourself just wants to argue all the time, don't go on Facebook. Or maybe you're already on there arguing, and
Right.
delete that Facebook and get rid of it.
Yeah.
Start a new one. Don't have a history of being the person who just argues with everybody on Facebook.
Yeah. Well, you know what? In marketing, there's again debate on whether you should take stands in cultural issues,
Yeah.
politics, stuff like that. And a lot of companies do. And some marketers say, don't worry about it. And I actually think it depends on who you are. If that's the
Yep.
kind of person that you are, then do it. You're going to have the people that agree with you are going to be like, hey, let's work together,
Yep.
unless you're like this billion-dollar company. And even, you know what?
You
Billion-dollar
know,
companies are doing it. They're coming
Well,
out on
I think all
social.
the rules have been broken in 2020. We've seen companies go both ways. I
Yeah.
think that the biggest challenge you have as a small business is knowing the surroundings of where you're at and what the leanings may be. And if you do decide to do something that's divisive, that will make one group or another upset at you, or maybe not choose your company, make the decision of what is the risk factor for that. This just becomes like any security discussion of what's the risk factor. If I alienate this particular group one way or the other, will that alienation cost me a lot of business, or will it bring me more business, because the people most likely around me are the ones who are decision makers, who will spend money with my company? And I've seen people do that, because it's a fair point to say you can be, especially when it comes to more social, less political, maybe a social topic that's out there. Um, that can be one that you may want to engage with, because there is a feeling of your company, of how you want your company to be perceived, and whether or not you want to be on one side of history or not, and taking a stand against something. So, that it's a tricky subject, and I can't guide everyone on it. I can tell you my experience and give you some thoughts around it, but don't ask me exactly what to do.
Yeah, it's hard, and it really does it has to match you. It has to fit you, and like you said, you have to be willing to take the risks that come with it. But if there are things, I would say there are plenty of things that are not really controversial, that you can talk about, that are personal to you. So for instance, my husband and I adopted 3 children from foster care. So that is naturally close to my heart. And next month, I'm doing a series of videos that are interviewing adult adoptees and families that have adopted. So that is something that is personal to me. It's unique to me. And I'm going to put that out there. And it's not really
Yeah.
controversial. Most people are
No.
like, yay, good for you. So you don't have to go the controversial route.
Right.
And like you said, people buy from people. So if you are, the more personal you make it, the better. I think
And
people are mostly just scared. People are more scared to
yeah.
personalize. They think they need to be like bland and not not bringing up
Oh yeah,
anything.
they try to bring it up overly generic, and that doesn't cause any level of engagement. And even coming back to some of the causes, things that I spend time actively engaging in, I've served on several charity boards, including the Children's Dyslexia Center, because I have a lot of kids and friends I know that are dyslexic, and I've served on those charity boards. I've served on, if you notice, I have long hair, but it's been trimmed a little bit. Children with Hair Loss is a national charity that we've been supporting for a long time. We do their IT and website and hosting and everything else. So I've served on that board, and those are also things like you engage with those things, and they're something you post about that becomes a discussion point, and they're showing
Yeah.
that you have a personal nature. And my business does have it's a good, fair point you brought that up, because my business has active engagement and supporting of those things, and it's something that people talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're doing it anyway. So it's like you're really just going to document it.
Yeah, and I
You know,
learned when I work in
talk
corporate,
about
they just
it.
call that corporate citizenship. I just like that they
Yeah.
have
Oh,
such a
yeah.
generic word for it.
Gotta have a term for everything.
Or
Yeah,
corporate
absolutely.
citizenship that we're doing this week. I used to remember those emails. I used to roll my eyes. I'm like, really? Aren't we just doing because we like them or something? Or, oh, it's corporate citizenship
Oh
because
no,
we
we
have to
have to
help.
find a cause that we could support. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
do something that you actually care about. That would be best. But
Yep.
yes, I mean, so going back to social media, is your way to interact,
Yeah.
since because you don't have those networking events to go to. You know, here's the next best thing. I mean, virtual events are okay, but it feels awkward to engage there,
We're not sure how to
especially with,
handle them. I would say
yeah,
the general public, techie people are very sure. We're used to living in chat rooms and things like that.
yeah.
But when everyone else, all the normal people got here, we're like, oh, how do we engage with them? They don't, the nuance is very different.
Right,
And
right.
especially
Yeah.
engaging with a customer on that level is very different. So yeah, those are
Yeah.
definitely challenging.
Yeah. So social media is much more natural because people are already, like you said, the normal people are already are
Yes.
already on there, and they're very comfortable interacting there. You can you can get into groups. Like I highly suggest Facebook groups, choose active groups, choose active groups, LinkedIn groups that have higher memberships, like 5,000 plus, are going to be very active. Like 7 people are going to be posting all the time. So you can make direct connections with people in that group and have something to talk about. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Yeah. So
Yeah, and
those
just
are ways
engage in
to
the
avoid.
discussion and answer questions and things like that.
Yeah.
And don't be too salesy. Some of that, just like engage with people, which of course, as geeks, this is some of the problems. Then I have someone say, well, I'm socially awkward. I'm like, you're gonna have to learn. And
Yeah.
it's,
You got a
I
little,
don't like talking to people. Well,
give it a shot.
okay, then you either need to hire a salesperson.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
Bill Gates hired Steve Ballmer. There's, Bill Gates was not the social butterfly, as we all know.
Hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, that's something you'll have to think about as well.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, let's see. What do we have here? What about pre-written content?
Okay. Okay. So yeah, you and I were talking about this. Um, all right. So there's pros and cons to it. I'm not against it. I think it can be really helpful for, especially for smaller businesses that don't have the time to write, or if you're super nervous about writing. That's a real thing. Yeah, I write, and I still look at my stuff and I'm like, oh, it's terrible. I need to redo the whole thing. So
Yeah.
that's a legit thing. And you don't want to, if you want to avoid that whole internal angst, go ahead and get some of that pre-written content, and it'll save you a lot of time, and help you just do some marketing. You don't have anything. So something is better than nothing. Um, the downside is you may be, so people in your geographic area could be sending the exact same content, to the same people, and then you look a little silly. So I would also caution you, if you use that, it is intended to be customized.
Yeah.
So make sure you go through it and remove the XXX dash XXX dash,
Yeah.
and put your phone number in there. Like that really makes you look bad. But yeah, you could be sending the exact same content to the exact same people, right? And um and again, it just goes back to that, like, it's it they are trying to sell this pre-written content to many companies. So you may be getting content that is very vanilla and very generic, and may not be as helpful for you as you would like. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think something you can do, and this is where I agree with you on a lot of this. And I think what people need to take a little bit more time to do, especially when they do it as a blog post, because they want some articles on their site. That's
Yeah.
fine. But when you're looking at it from an SEO standpoint and they're copy pasta, other than a phone number change, that doesn't really help your SEO. But because writing is challenging, take that article and modify a little bit of it, change a few words around, make it a little bit, maybe add a photo or two to bring something personal to it. And that might be that much more helpful. And of course, bottom line is you need content to be able to send someone occasionally, like, hey, this article talks about passwords. When I was at your office, I know you guys are terrible at it. Here's what, an article about password managers on my site, which of course, keeping them on your site's better than sending them to a third-party site, because third-party sites are so crammed with ads. The nice thing that I think people like when you have an article on your site is hopefully you didn't embed a bunch of ads in your site.
That's it. Yeah. And really, all it does, it helps your SEO. So people,
Yeah.
you'll come up. If people don't know what SEO is, it's search engine optimization, and it is, Google's algorithm for how they choose who's going to come to the top of the results.
Right.
So the more blog posts you have, the more keywords that you'll have in there that relate to your business. And Google says, "Oh, hey, these people know what they're talking about," and they'll move they'll move you up in the search rankings. So blog posts just help. The more keywords you have on your site, the better.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, there's pros and cons, and you really have to think about how much it costs, and decide if it's worth the price.
Yeah.
But honestly, in the end, you just need to commit. Like
You need to
market,
commit to something on there.
if it's going to help you get it done, then do it. That's like one of the biggest things in marketing that doesn't get done. People are not consistently doing it.
Yes. And speaking of that, so one of the things I didn't see on your list, but I think we should bring up though, is what do you think of physically mailing something to places? Is that still effective in 2020 or maybe more effective in 2020? Because it's easy. Throw some hand sanitizer and a few things in there
I know.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
you'll find them using it. Mail an ink
Right.
pen, mail a hand sanitizer. There's different options you can put that you would have never expected a year ago.
Yeah. Direct mail, it can still be effective, but again, I go back to need to make it different. There's something called lumpy mail, where you put something in the envelope with your mailer, and then people are like, "What? Oh, what is this?" You probably have gotten the ones from St. Jude's Hospital where they put a nickel in there,
Yeah.
and you feel obligated to open that, and then you kind of feel obligated to send them $5 or whatever. But yeah, putting some kind of object in there to make people curious to open it. I'm a big proponent of handwritten notes. So
Make it
that is
personal.
when was the last time you got a letter in the mail? I get birthday cards from my mom once a year, and it's like a month late. So that's that's it. You know what I mean? I have never ever gotten a handwritten note from a business
Yeah,
ever.
it has been rare. It has occurred, but I've been in business 17 years. And so
Yeah.
it had to happen at some point, but you're right. And it's something that makes you distinguished. There's also, I got to admit, because one of the local credit unions, they're small. So how do they do marketing? They do things like, we're going to give you 100 grand, and they mail candy bars, like the grand candy bars and things like that. The guy loves
That's
puns and
pretty good.
plays on words that does their marketing. I personally know him. And
Yeah.
that's a fun little things you can do. So
Yes.
find some way to make it personal. Find something you can put in there that they may find useful. And once again, if you're customizing it, if you know their industry, that makes it that much funnier. Chiropractors, I seen they got instead of a straight ink pen, they have the crooked pens, like a
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's
and
great.
one of them they were sending them out. They were mailing out pens that were broken. It says, "Is your back like this?" Is what it said on there. I was like,
Oh my gosh.
I don't know.
All right.
My staff took the pen. It's floating around somewhere.
Great.
My wife used to work for Rocket Mortgage, and they got these cool pens that you squeeze the pen and it opens up like a rocket ship. That's how the pen
Oh,
opens.
that's
It's
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you can find some little customized trinkets, and there's tons of them. The hardest part is choosing one. It's not that there's a shortage of them, but that little personalization of writing something, personalize it. Hey, dear business owner, take the time to find her name. LinkedIn's available, and
Yeah.
drop something customized in and get their attention. I think that's a really fair point.
Yep, absolutely. That's direct mail. Still
So yeah,
works.
so direct mail personalized. That's the
Yeah.
total sentence.
Yeah, because
That's
I
the
mean, I
action.
get I get tons of letters in the mail, tons of flyers, and I'm like, I don't even open half of them.
I'm
So if you
looking at
can
the
get,
pile of them right here from
yep.
Comcast. They just keep mailing me the most generic. There's no reason I even want to open this from Comcast right here. Like, oh look, it's another. Oh, this one's Wow Business. I thought it was Comcast.
Yeah.
This is unopened still, and it'll go directly into
Probably
the.
not going to be. Yeah, if you
Yeah,
can get a if you can get a copywriter, and they put, like, those are all using copywriters, by the way. So
yeah,
just having a copywriter does not guarantee that people are going to care about your direct mail. But some copywriters can really come up with something that's going to make people curious or whatever. But yeah, I mean, try something different than the
yeah.
flyers and the
I think we
letters.
got a few good ideas. Make sure you have a website for towards the end of this. So make sure you have a website. Claim your Google business, claim all your social media spots, even if you don't take them and use them right away.
Yeah.
Uh, be nice on Facebook and personable. Maybe
Yeah.
post a few puns.
Yes.
Direct mailing does indeed work, but it should be personalized so it doesn't end up in the garbage like I just threw the advertisement away from
Yeah.
Wide Open West Internet. And calling works, but be prepared for rejection. You're going to call a lot, and you get hung up on a lot. Don't let that discourage you. I think the
Yeah.
last couple of things you want to cover is, what does deborifying tech mean? I think that's what we've been trying to do this whole time, but that's a thing you had at the last on your questions here. I think it's a good one.
Yeah.
Deborifying tech. Go ahead and break that down for us.
Right. So, I mean, we know that tech is not boring. I went
Right.
to school, I went to Votech in high school for microcomputer repair. Remember when it was called
Yep.
that? And it was so exciting to me. I was like, this is really, really interesting, right? And went to ITT Tech then, also really interesting. Did not work in electronics, of course, because didn't pay that much.
Yeah. At the
But
time, it was not the right career
it
move.
wasn't it right, right. But it was just is really interesting, and all the technological advances that are coming along. I mean, stuff is ridiculously amazing, right? But most people, it's like eyes glaze over, okay. And they don't care. Half of a lot of them don't, they just don't care. So you've got to make it count for them. You got to make them care, is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
A lot of that is talking about their problems, so you need to focus on, like, what are the things that you have to handle the most. What are the questions that you get from your customers? But yeah, also just spicing it up, as you and I have talked about, like being yourself. Don't be afraid to be quirky and
Yeah.
be
Add a little personality to it. That's,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Because people are buying you from you in the end. So if they just happen to call you and and they like you, then they're going, oh, okay, cool. So why not put that out there on the internet? It's not going to hurt your business uh, to not be boring.
No, and I think
To help
that's, obviously they're here, they're watching this on my YouTube channel, so they've seen me be me, doing tech reviews, and they can see you be you. Go over to LinkedIn and you post videos and things like that. And you've added some personality to it. And I think that's, once again, that's how we came to be on this video together. Was you
right.
threw me a message, I had a little personality, and I said, hey, this is different. This is not that. I swear, people copy paste and literally don't change it every day. If someone has the word SEO in their title on LinkedIn and I accept it, I'm going to get a bot message almost immediately upon
Yep.
accepting it. Or if they say they're an app developer, I'm like, oh
Yeah.
boy, they're going to send me, I can develop apps for you. Oh, great. Yeah. You
Yeah.
and everybody else, I accept a friend request. It's an instant reply. So be a
Yeah,
little different than those
exactly.
people. I don't know what the conversion rate is on that, but I can't imagine it's big because I block most of them.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like outbound calling, right? But it takes less
Yeah.
time.
Takes less time
But
because they're using some level of automation to make that happen. But
automation's okay,
yeah,
but at least try to make your message a little different.
yeah,
Like,
it's okay. Like I mentioned, HubSpot. HubSpot will help with a lot of automation and follow-ups and things like that. That's, there's tools out there for that level. Just once someone replies and they've taken the time to reply, take the time to properly engage, not give them another automated email back. Unless you're really good
yeah,
at
or
writing
just
AI
ignore it.
bots.
I've responded to things that I'm like, this is probably automated, but I like to respond to DMs
Yeah.
whenever I can. So even just say, hey, thanks for connecting and nice to meet you. That's usually what I say. And then people are like, they don't say anything back. And I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, well,
That's,
fine.
yeah.
So
Then I won't. All right. So where do we find more about you? I'll leave links below and of course at your website, which is
jl.marketing.
jl.marketing. Pretty easy to remember there.
Yeah.
I'll leave links where you can find this. I'll
Yeah.
leave a link to her LinkedIn so you can see some of the quirky
Yeah.
marketing and things like that. But thank you for coming on and helping me
Yeah.
cover this topic a little bit. Hopefully people have a better idea. And by the way, none of this is easy. It's all hard work, right? And it's
Yeah.
also pick a plan, commit to it, and do it. I think that's what you said
Yeah.
earlier when we were talking. And I
Exactly.
think that's an important, also, if you do it for a week, you don't get results. A week, really?
Yeah.
You have to
Yeah.
do some things. Even when it comes to the YouTube channel, go back to my videos in the early days of 2015 when I started this, or 2016, and you're like, Tom, there's like no views and it's terrible. I'm like, yep. I
Yeah.
don't care that there's not views on it. It wasn't very good, but you're talking to dead air. You're marketing what feels like to dead air. It is anomalous if you happen to be someone who gets success on the first one. I'm not saying it can't
Yeah.
happen.
I don't
It's
even,
just
yeah.
statistically improbable. And awesome if you do do that thing where you send it out and all these people call you back and you get that awesome sale the first week, but don't expect it.
Yeah, yeah,
Don't chase unicorns.
marketing takes time. Marketing takes time.
Mhm.
Just like, I mean, you know that as MSPs, if you're coming in and trying to clean up somebody's network, it takes time for that to happen. And
Yes.
if your customer's like, well, why isn't everything fixed? Well, because it doesn't happen overnight. It's just
I've
not how it works.
inherited a mess and I have to do this. In the sales cycle with all these, I mean, if you know people that work in the larger commercial spaces, yeah, cool. Getting a 20 person to 100-person seat company is not bad. When you talk about the people who gain these 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 seat companies, the sales cycle might be 6 months on that, 6 months of pipe of marketing or longer.
Or longer. Yeah.
Yeah, the longer, larger sales have a much longer cycle. So you'd have to be patient with the marketing. Just I try to reiterate that, which is also why if you're doing a business plan, you have to look at, especially at the beginning, if no one knows your name, you got to spend a lot of marketing, a lot of time, and you have to have enough runway, enough money to burn through for the next several months, because you don't know if you're going to get a client at first, because no one wants to try the new guy on the block. That's just part of the when you start a business. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
all right, and thanks.
Yeah.
Any
Thank
closing
you.
words? Got it? We got everything? I think we covered all
Yeah.
of them, right?
Don't be boring.
Don't be
That's
boring. Oh, yeah, we want to see that. All right.
yeah.
Well, that's a good one to end with. All right, and thanks.
Thank you.
And thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more content from the channel, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon if you like YouTube to notify you when new videos come out. If you'd like to hire us, head over to lawrencesystems.com, fill out our contact page, and let us know what we can help you with and what projects you'd like us to work together on. If you want to carry on the discussion, head over to forums.lawrencesystems.com, where we can carry on the discussion about this video, other videos, or other tech topics in general. Even suggestions for new videos, they're accepted right there on our forums, which are free. Also, if you'd like to help the channel out in other ways, head over to our affiliate page. We have a lot of great tech offers for you. And once again, thanks for watching, and see you next time.